Robin, and thank you all for joining us. This Saturday night, AEW will broadcast the second edition of All Out from Daly's Place Amphitheater in Jacksonville, Florida. In what's shaping up to be one of the biggest shows of the year, we have 3 World Championship titles on the line, a 21-man casino battle royale, as well as some wildly entertaining matchups across the board. There's a lot to cover today. We have about 45 minutes or so, so let's dispense with the opening remarks, and Tony's ready to go. So if we're all ready to go, let's go right away to the lines. And Robin, if you'd open the line to Kenny McIntosh from Inside the Ropes, and we'll get started.
Hey, Tony, how's it going?
Very well, Kenny. Great to hear from you.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. We're all very excited all out this Saturday. I wanted to ask you, maybe it's a controversial question, I hope not, but Chris Jericho had said, I think it was last weekend, that he didn't really think that the FTW belt meant that much in AEW so far. And I just kind of want to get your comments. And obviously, there's kind of 3 male singles titles, and what we can maybe expect coming up with the FTW title to give it more.
The FTW title will be treated totally differently than the other titles. I'm really glad you asked that, Kenny. I'm working on a pilot, and it's a different kind of a project than the way you've seen wrestling titles defended traditionally, and it's very different from, obviously, how we use the World Heavyweight title and the TNT title. So the AEW World title and the TNT title, I think, have been treated as very, very important titles, and I really, really feel great about both those belts and their champions. And the FTW title and Brian Cage I feel good about too, but we haven't totally established it yet, and to be honest, our plans for the FTW title, there's a lot in store, and I'm excited about it. So I'm glad you asked. Thanks, Kenny.
All right, thanks, Kenny. Next up, I'm going to call on Bill Pritchard from WrestleZone. Bill, you there?
Hey, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, hey. Hey, Tony, how are you?
I'm well, Bill. Thanks, man. It's great to hear from you.
So, I wanted to get your opinion on the response to the tooth and nail match so far. I know some people online were less than thrilled that it's going to be on the buy-in. So, do you have any comment just to reassure fans or make them realize that this is an opportunity for them and for more people to see the all-out pay-per-view and it's not really a demotion?
That's absolutely true. I've always felt that way, and we put, from the first pay-per-view we did, Double or Nothing, we put some of our biggest stars, including Hangman and MJF, on the buy-in. And the idea of it, the reason it's called the buy-in is because we try and put exciting stuff on this first hour of the show so that people will pay to see the whole show. I love wrestling fans, and I've often said that wrestling is my favorite economy, and it is a strange, inelastic economy. It is the only place in the world where you'll have people complaining about getting something for free that they don't have to pay $50 for, and I think that's great because, like, the prestige of the quarterly pay-per-views, it shows how important I think we made getting on the main card. But at the same time, this is a great, important match for us. I think you'll see a lot more of Britt and Big Swole, and I'm excited about this. This isn't going to be a traditional wrestling match. The pay-per-view is going to be very, very wrestling heavy and not as story heavy. I'm sure we'll talk more on this call about it, but philosophically, like last night, the second hour was more story-based stuff to get you ready for the pay-per-view. Similar to what we did for Revolution, we had a very wrestling-heavy first hour in Kansas City with Kenny Omega and Pac in the Iron Man match, and the second hour was more story stuff, and Jericho and Jon Moxley did the weigh-in. Last night was great wrestling in the first hour, and some good wrestling in the second hour, too. I thought particularly Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb were excellent. But with Britt and Swole, there's going to be a ton of great wrestling on this card. Their match is going to be cinematic, frankly, and it's going to be great. We're going to have a live crowd there, and we thought for the live crowd, given the kind of match they're going to have in this situation, this isn't the Britt and Swole can and will have great wrestling matches. I think this will be a little bit different, but it's also going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be free for everybody to check out. And I think all the great wrestling everybody's going to get on the pay-per-view will be worth the money. But it's a great question. I don't think it affects the status of the match. It's more about the tone of the match, frankly, and also the fact that it's good placement. It's a good advertisement for broad fans to AEW. We think it's going to be a great match, and it's going to be going out to a big audience.
All right, thanks, Bill. Next up, I'd like to call on Connor Casey from Comic Book. Connor, are you there?
Connor, you have to unmute your line.
Hey, Connor.
Hey, are we good?
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Hey, Tony, thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah.
In the past few weeks, we have seen NWA power footage on Dynamite. We've heard Billy Corgan's voice, and obviously we've seen Thunder Rosa more than a few times, and she's got this big match on Saturday. What is the working relationship between AEW and NWA as it stands right now?
The working relationship between us is the extent of the good personal relationship between Billy Corgan and me. I've had a good relationship with Billy for years, long before I got into the wrestling business. Frankly, I'm good friends with Chris Nowinski. I really believe in Chris's work, and I think, the Concussion Legacy Foundation does great work. Chris has come in at my request and spoken to all of the AEW talent, and we have a good relationship with the Concussion Legacy Foundation, and Chris is my good friend. And he introduced me to Billy years ago, and I went to one of Billy's concerts. He's a very nice guy, and I have a lot of respect for Billy as a musician. The NWA's got great history. They aren't really operating right now. I think we're very, very different companies in a very different place, and I think the NWA, it sounds like they're going to get back to running, and I wish Billy the best with the stuff he's doing, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for them and for us, because Thunder Rosa is great, and I thought she would be a great challenger for Shida. So it's one of those situations where I thought it would make sense for both sides, which is why I proposed it, and he agreed, and that's why we're doing it.
Thanks.
But it's a good question, Connor. I'm sorry, Jim. I didn't mean to. So that's it, Connor. And I've asked Billy about this. I'm not sure what the future would hold for it, but obviously, if Thunder Rosa wins the title, there could be a lot more. And Thunder Rosa and Shida is going to be one of the great matches on the card. I think Thunder Rosa, her first match on Dynamite was a hit last night, and I'm really excited for the match. And so Billy and I have got a good relationship. If Thunder Rosa wins the title, you could see, obviously, a lot more stuff between us, but I don't have any plans to use anybody else from the NWA. Although some of our star wrestlers have been there, with Eddie Kingston and Ricky Stark and Colt Cabana. So it's a good question. But besides Thunder Rosa, we're not really talking about using anybody else from there. But again, Thunder Rosa by the weekend could be our champion, and it's quite possible. So I would stay tuned on that.
All right. Thanks, Tony, and thanks, Connor. We invited everyone to submit questions also online, and we have a number of them. Tony, I'd like to read one now to you from Darren Paltrowitz, a freelancer. His question is, unlike other wrestling companies, AEW has managed to keep people surprised, where most of the surprise appearances have been kept secret even when pre-taped. There's a lot of work go into that. Or is it that people don't get hired unless they really know or really show trustworthiness?
I think it's a bit of both. We work really hard at it. We keep a small circle. We're a small company. It's a family business, a small company, and we're a startup. And we've grown so quickly worldwide. But frankly, even though we're the second biggest wrestling company in the world, we're not the biggest machine. We're not the biggest... there's not so many people that to spoil a surprise, because I think the more people that are in on it, the more likely it is, and we really benefit that we got a lot of great, trustworthy people in our front office, and I keep things very close to the vest, frankly, but the people I do talk to I really trust, and the people we bring in have been really trustworthy, so I think it's been a really positive thing for us, and we've tried to keep these surprise is a surprise, and frankly, we have a lot more surprises ahead for you in the coming weeks. And I'm excited about things that are coming So I really respect the job our team have done, and the rare times things have come out, I don't think they were from people in our core organization. It's funny, Chris, I think at one point Jericho alluded to somebody he thought mentioned something off a tape show, and I think he was right, and I don't think that was a person that works here. But generally, when we've tried to keep surprises, we've kept them in the family, and we have a great family here.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Darren. We're going to open the lines back open and go to Nick Hausman from Wrestling Inc. Nick, are you with us?
I am here.
Hey, Nick.
Hi, Tony. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Sure, Nick. How's the weather in Chicago? Sorry for asking that and wasting everyone's time. I'll add that time back on the end like a football match.
You know, I went down to North Pond yesterday, and it was a beautiful 82 degrees. I watched the turtles and the ducks, and it was beautiful. You could have been there, buddy. It was wonderful.
It's been a while. I haven't been home up there in a long time, since Revolution.
Come on back. We'll go to a hair salon and a bar. It'll be wonderful.
What's up, Nick?
So, Tony, my question is pretty straightforward. I know you love when you get asked about free agents. It's like your favorite thing. But there's a big one out there right now. Brock Lesnar. Have you talked to Brock? Do you have interest in Brock? What do you say to all the speculation that he could possibly find his way into AEW?
I can't comment on that at this time, Nick, but I've enjoyed Brock's work for many years. He's a great fighter and a great wrestler. I don't think people talk enough about what a great worker Brock Lesnar is, and is one of the great working big men I've ever seen, one of the great athletes in the history of the wrestling business, and I have so much respect for him. But, yeah, I couldn't comment on that, Nick, but I appreciate you asking.
Thanks, Nick. Another question came in online, Tony, for you from John Corrigan from the Wrestling Estate. With all the highs and lows of AEW's tenure so far, what has been the biggest lesson you've learned as the head of a pro wrestling company?
It's a great question. Last night is a really good example, honestly. There's times where the red light goes on and it's 7:59, and at 8 o'clock the show clicks on, and you should have realized something sooner, but literally it doesn't occur to you until you're there in the chair. And that was me last night, and there's times where it's going to be like this. And frankly, I know last night there was a lot of great wrestling in the first hour, and I put a lot of responsibility on Thunder Rosa and Serena to have the strong wrestling match in the second hour, and I thought they nailed it. And they were put in a showcase position in the semifinal, and they nailed it. And but I kind of knew we were putting a lot on them, and thankfully they hit a home run for us. But in the first hour, like I said, in Kansas City in the first hour last night, in the go-home shows, my philosophy has been put a lot of wrestling there, put a lot of story stuff in the second half. Now, in Kansas City, some of the story stuff you got in the second half, the weigh-in with Jericho and Moxley, with, this big crowd in Kansas City, they loved it. You've got Orange Cassidy's coming out and challenging Pac in the show, with making that match. There's a lot of fun stuff. Last night, frankly, I understood that, if people want to see a lot of wrestling in the show, 48 weeks a year, that's all I think about is wrestling. 4 times a year when we have these huge pay-per-view cards, they, that week, become the priority. The go-home shows, I treat them differently. The highs and lows and the lessons I've learned, every week I learn a new lesson. The pandemic has been lesson after lesson after lesson. I try to learn things and not do them again, and if I make a mistake twice, then I'm definitely trying not to make it 3 times. It's the highs and lows, it's really the same thing. It's just like learning and trying to put together good shows. I have a feeling that this weekend is going to be one of the great highs. I look back at Revolution as probably a high point for us, and then I just think that day was a perfect day for me. I had met with a lot of people. I had been with Orange Cassidy and Pac talking, separately and very late, talking about things that I wanted to see tomorrow, and I'd been with Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho very, very late, separately, talking about things that were going to happen with them. And I ended up getting very little sleep We played early in the morning. Fulham won. When I say we, I mean Fulham. Fulham had this match. I didn't get a lot of sleep, and then went over straight to the arena, and we had Revolution. And to me, it's the best thing we've ever done. It was just a perfect day. I would call it the ultimate high, but it was also the culmination of learning a lot of lessons. Since then, the wrestling business has changed dramatically. Last year, we were the #1 company in attendance per show in the world of wrestling, and this year it's not really about trying to put fans into arenas. The philosophy of the business has changed completely in the last 6 months, and I feel like we've tried to roll with the punches. This weekend is going to be one of the highs. This weekend, I can't tell you how excited I am for Saturday. I held back in the second hour last night too much, maybe, because I wanted you to really anticipate the wrestling on this show, because the main card on Saturday, bell to bell, is going to be the best wrestling you've seen since the pandemic. Furthermore, I hate that it's come to this. I hate that this is what we have to do. But I've used this analogy privately and publicly, and I'm sorry to give such a long-winded answer about highs and lows. There's a lot of answers to highs and lows and a lot of things I can talk about. And I'll say this, like, the pandemic has been the best example of this. There have been such highs and lows in this pandemic, trying to do great things. To come back and do Double or Nothing and do that, I thought Double or Nothing was like the bastion of ingenuity. To be able to sit back and it's like, okay, with what we have, how can we do a great pay-per-view? I thought, and I'm sorry, I'll just be honest, we were both operating during the pandemic. I tested everybody coming in. This might be the pull-out quote of the press conference, but I'm going to say it. I thought Double or Nothing kicked the crap out of WrestleMania. It was a much better pay-per-view. We were both operating under difficult circumstances. I think ours, we were fortunate. It was a little bit later in the pandemic, and we had implemented testing, and we're doing testing at that time. But when we did Double or Nothing, we were still the only ones doing testing. So it wasn't like we had a good testing plan at that point. Okay, and what we came out with and did at that point to set up a bubble and do that pay-per-view, I was so proud of it. We've come a long way since Double or Nothing. If you were if you want to see a show with wrestling fans in a packed arena, I can't give that to you right now. But what I can give you, and I've talked a lot about in the last week or two, has been a drive-in movie theater. I know everybody wants to go back to the movies and go see. Me, at least I do. I used to go to the movies all the time since I was a kid, and it's one of my releases. And I haven't obviously been able to go to the cinema in a really long time. But the drive-in movie is a way to go with your friends and family and feel safe and do the same thing you used to do before, which is go see a new movie together and in a kind of a captive experience where everyone's not going to be in their phones and paying attention to the movie on the big screen. And I can't offer you the cinema, but I can offer you the drive-in movie. And that's how I feel about what we're doing with the live events. And it's one of the great highs for me. And to see the live crowd, Chris Jericho described it as one of the great highs of his 30-year storybook career. Last week, having that crowd back, we're gonna go. We've got a lot of unallocated space we didn't use, but we didn't want to stretch the security personnel. The people, the staff at Daly's Place and the AEW team have done such an amazing job on this, and we're gonna go a little bit closer to 15% for All Out. And again, I compare it to the drive-in movie theater. I think this is over 99% safer than the experience of packing people into an arena. I think this is the only way to do live event wrestling shows right now is outdoor, socially distanced, seating pods, fans in protective masks, and having people around, not to be a jerk about it, but just to remind people, hey, please don't get out of your pod and go hang out with the people in the other pods, and please keep your mask on when you're not sipping your drink or eating your pretzel, or So we've had that, and this weekend will be, I believe, one of the all-time highs in the company. When you look at the card, which I think now we can hopefully spend more time talking about, and rather than me giving you this long-winded answer, I'm really excited for it. I think Saturday All Out, it's going to be a lot different than All Out last year. but I wouldn't have it any other way for the situation we're in, the people I'm with. Please, if you ever liked an AEW show, check out All Out this weekend because I think it will be some of our strongest work. Thanks for putting up with that. Sorry.